Welcome to the Spirituality What? Podcast, where we explore the mysteries, joys, and challenges of being spiritual beings navigating our unpredictable human experience we call life here on planet Earth. I'm your friendly guide, Rebecca, ready to jump into our adventure of the day. Hello, Spirituality What? Podcast listeners. I am Rebecca. I'm your guide through these fun and interesting and enlightening spiritual conversations. And I am back today with another part one of a two-part episode. Today we are going to talk to Meera about meditation as spiritual beings. So I connected with Meera through that website that I mentioned before, podcastguest.com. And so still not sponsored by anybody, Meetup or podcastguest.com. But it has turned out to be a really interesting resource to find people for podcasts. So if you're out there podcasting and you're not sure how to get additional interviewees, check out their website. So Meera had suffered from illness and chronic pain for over 30 years, and she hit rock bottom and decided that she was going to end her life. So in choosing to do this and to potentially go through with this and making this choice to end her life in this physical form, a miracle actually occurred, and she had a transcendent experience, something that was like nothing she had ever imagined or experienced in the past, and it changed her forever. So in 2012, she became an Ishaya Monk, and ever since then, she's been teaching people how to experience more peace, experience more happiness, change their relationship with physical, mental, and emotional pain. And she's very passionate about sharing her discoveries and adventures in the world of pain and mental health. She's created courses and workshops for people to learn about meditation, pain management, stress management, emotional well-being, and other similar topics. And today we are going to talk to Meera about who exactly the Ishaya monks are, how meditation plays a role in her particular spiritual practice, ascension and other softer meditation and different meditation techniques. We're going to talk about the role of thoughts in meditation. And I think this is a really interesting part of the discussion because we really get into, I think, a sticking point for some people when it comes to meditation, which is our mind and our thoughts. We're talking about awareness, stillness, and silence, the fact that what you resist persists, and what peace really is to Meera. So let's get to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Spirituality What podcast. I'm excited. We've got a new episode today, and I'm here with our guest, Meera. Meera, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Oh, hi there, Rebecca. Thanks for having me. My name's Meera. I'm an Ishaya monk, and for me, that obviously wasn't what I intended when I was younger, but it kind of came about because I just spiraled down in life, and everything got really tough, and so there just got a point where I kind of had to do something because I really didn't want to even be here anymore. So it kind of just events unfolded. And it's like, I think when you're ready, the teacher or teaching appears. And so for me, that's exactly what happened. And I found my community, if you like, of people who are non-judgmental, like it's like I can just be myself 100%. And that's been really freeing.
Absolutely.
And even just receiving the name Meera has just been so beautiful. And that's not my birth name, my legal name. But it's kind of almost like, my birth name is Sally. It's just like she has all the stress. And once I was given this name, it's almost like, an invitation, like, right, you can hit the reset button, you can start again. And then life is like wide open and exciting now. So, yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, welcome to the podcast. So we're going to start with one question, and then we'll jump back into kind of the main topic of meditation today, which is the same question that I ask all of the interviewees on the podcast. And it is, what does spirituality mean to you?
Yeah, so spirituality is the most natural thing in the world for me. It's coming back to self. Like the Tibetan word for meditation is familiarization. And so, meditation is the tool that I use to uncover who and what I am. So it's almost like that inner cosmic exploration, to that still silent space, that part of you that doesn't move or change, the pure
Mm,
awareness that we sometimes miss because, of all the rings and bells and whistles of life. So yeah, the
absolutely.
thoughts are loud, the emotions are loud, the other people, the events. And so for me, spirituality is actually coming back to that underlying reality of perfection, of stillness, of silence, and starting to identify with that rather than identifying with the thoughts. And then it kind of
Mm,
gives a really different experience of life. So for me, spirituality is pretty much everything in my life, to uncover that, because it keeps life simple. It keeps life exciting, and it's, for me, it's the way humans are intended to live. Like, that's the point of being alive, is to
absolutely.
explore life as a spiritual being, because it's who and what we are. You can't really
Yeah.
ignore it.
Yeah, I'm in the same vein as that. So let's kick this off with some basics and set kind of some foundations. So who are the Ishayas? What does it mean to be an Ishaya monk? And then also, how did you find that? How did that come into your life?
Yeah, so the Ishayas are a group of people, and Ishaya is simply a Sanskrit word, actually. Sanskrit is a very
Okay.
ancient
Yes.
vibrational language. It's like the root language of all other languages. And so Ishaya simply means for or in support of highest consciousness. So
Mm,
the Ishayas are a group of monks who prioritize that. So anything that we do and serve in the world, the foundation of that is nurturing and looking after our own experience. So it's very much an inside out job. And so that's what we do. We prioritize that and live that ourselves. And then we share our experience with the world rather than preaching as a form of teaching, if that makes sense. It's really
yeah.
never telling people what to do. It's going, this is what it's like for me, and the invitation then for others. So for me, living life as an Ashaya it just aligns with my core values anyway,
Okay.
of kindness, honesty, and non-violence. There's just so many aspects of being an Ashaya it's almost like I always was one. And it's just, this is kind of like the formal
Sure.
recognition of it, I suppose. And I think I came across them when I just got to that point in my life where I kind of, like, I know there has to be more to life than this. This
Mm,
cannot be it. So it was almost just like a thirsting for more, not more knowledge though. Like, I'd had enough of knowledge. I'd read a ton of books, be in the now and all of this lot. And I'm like, but now, how do I actually do that? How do I implement that and live that? And what does that truly mean for my life? And so when I
mm.
really got that curious about it, it is just like I'd say I found them or they found me.
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were just saying like you live in support of the highest consciousness, so what does that mean in your day to day? Like, how does being an Ishaya monk impact your day to day life?
Yeah, so it's really being so much more alert and attentive to what's happening. So the meditation techniques I use enable me to be more consciously aware. So I kind of see when I fall into the trap of thinking, or I kind of like come up against somebody and it feels like there's a little clash going on there. And so for me, it's like putting into practice, like, right, that's a flag. What does that mean? I don't need to figure anything out, but essentially it means I've started thinking and resisting life. So it's like, right, just come back with presence, pay attention, and then kind of tap into the flow of life.
Mm,
So life is very simple and easy and flowing. There's always a flow. There's this greatest force for good in the universe that is always there trying to support us, for whatever leads us back to self, back to that realization, and then establishing that and living in that permanently. So for me, every moment of every day is a mirror to demonstrate to me, am I here, am I showing up, am I present, or am I off on in a thought created reality, which is stale old information, and then I might be reactive. And so it's just like a game in a way. It's a very enjoyable dance. I think the more you stabilize your experience, the easier it gets. I know when I first started to see when I was caught on stuff, it's almost just like there was self-violence, like I was doing something wrong. And
Mm,
now I understand that you actually cannot do anything wrong ever. It's really just a little nudge, where is your attention, so that you can actually have the fullest, purest, clearest experience now.
absolutely. So, how does meditation play a role in the Ishaya Monk practice or your specific practice?
Yeah, so meditation is kind of something I'd rejected, actually. So it's really quite funny that I'm a meditation teacher. That's my whole life is set up around this. And like the reason I rejected it is because like my first attempts at meditation were like trying to stop thoughts,
Mm,
and you can't do that. But nobody told me this. So
yeah.
I was kind of trying. There's so many misconceptions around meditation, and so people try to do it. Whereas really, as I said before, the Tibetan word for meditation is familiarization. So it's really actually coming back into your natural operating mode. So natural versus normal, if you like. And so
Mm,
the techniques I use are called ascension attitudes. And this is
okay.
what the Bright Path Ashayas practice and teach. And we, like our marketing is kind of like ascension beyond meditation. So it's really they're much more comprehensive techniques, which are always bringing you back and enlivening stillness and silence, as opposed to watching the breath. It's very calming for the body, which then in turn calms the mind. So it's a little bit more, they're more direct techniques. And so
Okay.
for me, to be able to have the still, silent, pure awareness that you are enlivened. Every time you think the technique, automatically they're mechanical. So it's not, you haven't got to visualize, you haven't got to do anything. You
I see.
simply think it and pay attention, and then it's revealed. And so the more you do that, the more obvious it becomes.
Mm,
And so for me, there's what I might call soft meditation techniques, which are fabulous. And I think, for example, breathing is quite important in a moment of panic attack or extreme anxiety. You might not want to use the ascension techniques. You might need meditation. You might need breathing in that moment
mm-hmm.
just to calm everything down, because like you have to be able to choose. So with mental health stuff, if you're kind of really lost in the drama of life and the emotional feeling, and you're really resistant, then you won't have the clarity to be able to even choose. And so
Yeah, sure.
with a meditation technique, you have to have the clarity to be able to choose. But for me, it creates that foundation of an experience that actually gives you a much more solid experience of peace. So it gets easier and easier to see, easier and easier to choose. So for me, meditation it's essential, because it's like going to the gym. For your body, you exercise your body and you train your muscles. And with meditation, you're training an awareness muscle. So you're starting to be able to remain alert and present, and not getting lost in the thinking. So you can have a clear, pure experience of this moment. And it's kind of like you see the bigger picture then. So you access the
Mm-hmm.
bigger picture version of life, and you just see more, hear more, and everything you see and hear isn't distorted through the filters of the mind.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's easier to see if someone's distressed and shouting at you. I don't get so drawn into it anymore, because I just see they're hurting. Whereas in the past, I'd have just been triggered and
sure.
reacting to them. Whereas now, it's like that you get space, so you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of see the person. You can feel their energy, but it's like there's such a vast, still experience of peace for me that is like a little whisper, like a drop in the ocean, rather
Mm,
than a full-on forceful feeling like it used to feel.
totally. So, I have two questions. So, what does meditation look like to you? And if you're thinking about these softer techniques versus this ascension technique, is there a difference?
Yeah, there is a difference. And so for me, the ascension meditation brings you immediately to the experience of pure awareness. So it's like there's a field of awareness, and then thoughts pass through that.
Mm,
So it is essentially a thought that replaces the other thoughts, but draws your attention back onto the still, silent backdrop, and then that becomes enlivened. So it becomes more apparent and gets stabilized really, really quickly. And when that happens, everything that you're not, all the beliefs, all the understandings, all the stress, all the resistance just naturally evaporates off, And as that happens, there's exhaust fumes of healing, there's thoughts that arise. And so we kind of then get practiced at, seeing a thought and just letting it, we're more aware of the still silent backdrop because it gets enlivened so effectively. But there are still times where, a thought will arise, like a special thought, one that's really got a hook on you, that triggers you, and then that might catch your attention. And so then you're lost in thinking again. And for us, it's always about, don't worry about that. It's all unconscious. You never battle or push away thoughts. It's just as soon as you see it, you come back. And if you just make it all about the coming back, then it's a very smooth, easy, gentle path. And certainly for me, it's the path of joy rather than the path to joy. So it's more effective because you're enjoying things along the way. Everything becomes gentle so quickly and easily. And yeah, there's also, you've got breath meditation, haven't you? It's very important, very useful. For me, the ascension techniques are only taught in person because there's like a direct transmission of the teaching from my experience. And so in order to teach it, I really established that.
Yeah.
That was part of the training, to establish that as an ongoing, perpetual experience, so that if somebody reacts in a class, I don't get pulled into that drama with them. I can just stay here and then they can let go of it quicker because I'm not getting pulled into the drama. Whereas breathing meditation techniques I can teach online. So I kind of do both. And, there's other mantras that you can use. And there's visualizations, there's intonation. And so they're all useful, really, just to, so there's a difference between mindfulness and meditation, for example. So mindfulness is simply just paying attention and just seeing what you notice. And then for me, meditation is that one step further where you have something that redirects your attention. So it brings it down to just one thing. So just the breath, or just the mantra, or just the visualization. And so when you do that, you create more coherence in the mind and everything calms down. So yeah, all meditation is beautiful. And for me, it's just like, well, what is it you want? For me, I want the whole enchilada. I want everything that's absolutely available to me. And so for those who really want more and they're just like, you don't want to mess around anymore, then I think Ascension's the technique for you. It's like really the thing to get the fullest experience of life.
Yeah.
But not everybody wants that. Sometimes people just want a bit better sleep. They just want less stress. They're not interested in the spiritual necessarily.
Sure, right. So, because there are like actual, and we had this sort of discussed, there's like actual changes in your brain, physical changes that also happen when you meditate too, that aren't necessarily spiritually associated.
Yeah, absolutely. And so teaching all these other meditation techniques, some people get to the point and they want to learn Ascension, And so, but for me, it's like I let people know what's available, but it's always got to be each individual's choice. Like I never try and sell it or push it because I don't think you can. I think people are either ready or they're not ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's just like, what's the most suitable technique for the person in front of me right now? And if it's online, then it'll be whatever I can give them, and I'll be observing them and paying attention and listening to the feedback that I get from them, so I can guide them best. And often it's a case of giving them a toolbox of techniques, and then it's just like encouraging them, what makes the most sense to you, what do you find the easiest, what do you find the most effective, and encouraging them to use what makes sense for them. So it's really supporting them and empowering them on their journey, rather than dictating or kind of trying to force people to have a certain approach.
I think that's a really great point. And like the moral of the story here in my mind that I'm making based on what you're saying is that just like you said, exercising at the gym or just in general, or just like yoga, there's 100 different ways to do it, 100 different types. And you might want a different type than what you're experiencing. So just because you're being exposed to a certain kind of meditation and you don't like it, it doesn't work, it's not fitting, it's not vibing, it doesn't mean meditation isn't for you. It means that type of meditation in that particular instance might not be it for you, right? But there's other types, there's other scenarios. I'm thinking when you were talking about like awareness, and I had an experience when I was traveling recently, and I do not identify as a person with having anxiety. Like I've been told, people are like, you're high anxiety. And I don't identify with that yet currently. But I was in a situation where I was experiencing something physically in my body. And I was like, what is happening right now? And I was on a train. I was actually in the UK. So I like, took a minute and kind of grounded down and was like, all right, like what is this going on? And, I came to me and it was like, oh, this is anxiety. And I was like, weird. Like, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know what this is. I don't know why I have this. But then I was also kind of doing what you were saying, which was like, all right, it's okay. Like, you're allowed to have anxiety. It's not a big deal. Everything's okay. Like, just come back to where we are, which is everything is fine. So it was like a little bit of like a pep talk, kind of a little bit of a meditation, mindfulness, kind of all at the same time. But I think the moral of the story here is if you're trying meditation and you're like, this is not working, try a different kind. I think really.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I think too, for me, what made the biggest difference when I learned the ascension techniques wasn't it was the techniques themselves that I found very effective, but also it was the ongoing guidance that I received, because there's so many traps in the mind. And that's why, to be able to teach it, I had to have a stable experience. So, and to have walked through some of those traps and to see them so I can best guide people.
Absolutely.
And that ongoing guidance is essential for me. I think people have all these meditation apps and maybe they're great to start off with. But, if you're really serious about meditation, it's like finding a teacher and getting someone to help you, give
like
you
coaching
feedback.
Or something. Yeah.
It's like that ongoing guidance is for me more important than the techniques themselves, actually, because you can get caught down so many garden paths, if you like, because we can always we don't develop a spiritual ego, and I think some people can just go, like, this is it. And it's like, for me, well, there's always more. But also, if it feels like really difficult meditation, there's usually something you are doing, a conclusion in your mind that you're not seeing, that is creating the difficulty.
It's kind of like
And
the
the more
or
you
something.
the more you kind of reassure people and let people know that that's all normal, and then they can just go, oh, and then just keep going. And I think when we understand that it's okay, thoughts are okay, stress moving, emotion arising, all this stuff we've shoved down has to come up and out. So it's all okay, however it looks. And so, that ongoing guidance really it's like being a cheerleader for somebody, and then just refining it for them, so you can make it less effortful, less complicated, so simplifying it and making it as easy as possible. And that, that for me helped in my own experience. And that's the feedback I always get from others, is just like, wow, you've just simplified it. It just felt so difficult and hard. Now you said that, then they'll keep going, because now it's simple, now it's easier. I don't think you're going to continue on if it's not simple and easy.
I think you bring up a really interesting point, because I use some meditation apps, and I've never really done like a meditation class or coaching or anything like that, as you sort of talk about that now. But it does seem like it would be a lot more useful getting kind of this feedback. I think that you bring up a really great point, which is that a lot of people think that meditation is not having any thoughts, and that's absolutely not at all what it is. But if you go into meditation with that perspective or expectation, it's really a difficult activity. It's not fun. You're setting an unrealistic expectation for yourself, not just as like an individual, but as a human being. Like, it's literally not possible, right? Like to not have thoughts.
Well, I mean, you can have just pure awareness, and there's no thoughts arising within the experience. And I think that's what people latch on to, and they try and put the cart before the horse. So they are trying to clear their mind to get the experience that they've told is possible. And that's actually counterproductive. I think the more you try and push thoughts away, it's like you've got a cord of attachment to them, because like, it's so much easier to go towards something than to move away from something. If you're moving away from something, it's like you're dragging it with you, because your attention's still on it. So if you try and get rid of thoughts, your attention's still on thoughts.
Regardless.
So
yeah.
So there'll be thoughts forever if you try and approach it in that
as
way,
opposed to awareness.
Yeah,
no thoughts or awareness.
Yeah, particularly with the ascension techniques that I teach, it's like redirect your attention back onto the stillness and silence. So if a thought arises, doesn't matter. That's the invitation. You've left, come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, but it's a gentle experience because it's so natural. Like, this is our birthright. This is our natural state of being. It's not just for monks meditating in caves. It's everybody's birthright and everybody's natural experience. So that's why it can be so simple and easy, because it's an undoing. We're letting go of all the patterns and habits and things that we've learned that we have to do to get peace or happiness or security or fulfillment or whatever. And actually, if you just come back to yourself, fulfillment is here, peace is here, quiet is here, and yeah, there can be absolutely no thoughts for extended periods of time, but I still have thoughts arise. But for me, it's just like, I've left and come back. It's just a pointer then for me, and there's a gentleness in there, rather than it's so forceful for trying to get rid of thoughts, and really, like, I don't think that approach ever works.
Yeah, I think you're saying like the gentleness is like in acceptance rather than don't do that. I'm making like a cross with my hand, for those that can't see us. So I'm like, get away from that. Like, don't do that when it's kind of just the flow and the acceptance of sort of what is, but not giving it undue attention, if you will.
Absolutely, because it's like that catchphrase, what you resist persists.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Resist, it keeps coming back. It's just like it wants safe passage through, be like air, it'll come and it'll go. And if you don't argue with it, if you don't do anything with it, actually everything comes and goes. And it's then getting used to that part that remains, the pure awareness that you are is always, it's a constant. And so that's why it's so gentle, because you're just being now. There's nothing you have to do to be okay, to feel good, to feel happy. It's just that natural state of presence. It's a happy state, it's a peaceful state, and it's fulfillment there. And then you live your purpose naturally. Like, the words just flow through that are meant to, the action flows through that's meant to, and it's then just so easy and gentle, but exciting at the same time. Because I kind of used to think peace was boring. But it's a really alive experience.
Well,
not boring at all.
I think peace is maybe associated sometimes culturally. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that one a little bit more. But like with doing nothing, like peace and doing are not necessarily opposites. Like you can be peaceful while you're doing things, but if you're not doing anything, it also doesn't mean that you're being peaceful, right? Like they don't go together, but we've created an association somehow. It feels like.
Yeah, definitely. Because for me, like, peace is the natural state of being, of pure awareness. And like the doing that we need to let go of is simply the thinking in the mind. So if we let go of the thinking, we're no longer in doing mode, if you like, and we're just a human being now. We're just simply being. And from that state, we have a very high level of alertness, but teamed up with a really deep level of rest. So your body is really rested, your experience really rested, but you can run a marathon. So it's not like non-activity.
Yes.
And like, stillness isn't doing nothing. It's a state of being where actually, if you're still now, you can do the activity, but it's very smooth and gentle. Like the way my body moves it's so much more fluid and gentle and easy. With all the postural deviations that I picked up over the years, it's just like thinking mode and it's all there. And then when I'm just present, it's just, there's a flowing to my movement. So everything is gentle and easy because there's nothing in the way. It's almost like thoughts are instructions for the body. And so the body's not in just that natural state of rest now. Doing in the body beyond, the action that you're carrying out right now. So it's like you're then driving a car with the handbrake partially applied.
So
you've got a friction, a drag. You can still move, but you don't necessarily move smoothly and gently and easily. It's always an effort in there.
Yeah. And you might not even realize that, right? You might not even recognize the handbrake.
Well, because we've been acclimatized to it. It's great. It's like we've just gently pulled the handbrake on teeny bits. And it's still enough to move forward, but we're not recognizing because we've got used to that drag. We've got used to the pressure, and the friction in our experience. So it's this what we're used to. And so, for me, I didn't know how easy life could be until the experience opened up through, a solid meditation practice, So then you kind of enter a different operating mode,
Yeah.
if you like. And,
Yeah.
like your original operating mode, the original blueprint mode of being. And then everything is so fluid and smooth and gentle and easy. And then, you can run faster,
Yeah.
jump higher.
Yeah.
The words that come to you just seem to flow through. You haven't got to figure out what you're going to say. Like I used to kind of freeze, with public speaking used to terrify me. Now it excites me because I've kind of gotten used to the words just come.
Yeah.
And if the words don't come, it doesn't matter. They're not meant to. But for me, something always comes.
Right. Yeah.
And a little bit of space and silence and a pause is part of it,
All right, everybody, that is it for today. Please join us next week for part 2 of this meditation as spiritual beings episode with Meera. Thank you for joining me on today's Spirituality What? Adventure. Subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. Visit us on Instagram at spirituality.what to interact, tell us what spirituality means to you, and even provide some of your own personal musings. Human on, you phenomenal spiritual beings.